Ladies and gentlemen, RosterWatch Nation, welcome back to the epic RosterWatch Podcast, brought to you by RosterWatch.com. My name is Alex Dunlap here with the Trashman. We are finally back into organized team activities, Trashman. The players are showing up. Aaron Rodgers is already, they say he's out there having so much fun that he gets hurt. We'll talk a little bit about that, but we wanted to talk about some of the fantasy storylines that we are keeping an eye on, some of the things that are beginning to percolate out of some of these camps, what some of the beat writers are saying, what the different media departments are putting out there. And yeah, just go over it and see how it affects, everything that we're doing with the dynasty rankings, the dynasty top 250, of course, available to our pro members that Trashman oversees. We have the dynasty rookie cheat sheets, which have been updated for standard, one quarterback leagues, as well as super flex and tight end premium. I put up the scoring distribution tools for the busts and monsters that help me every year to get an idea of just sort of the way that these players, as far as their fantasy scoring, their distribution over the course of the last 2 seasons, or with some of these second-year guys in their rookie season, just to give us an idea of how they're scoring and stuff. You can find that in your pro download section if you're a pro member. And, of course, the redraft cheat sheets, the magical, the mystical, mythical sheets will be available soon. So if you like this content, you want more of it, please make sure and go check us out over at RosterWatch.com. Also, while we're telling you about that kind of stuff, if you could please give us a thumbs up in YouTube, leave a comment, and if you listen to this in Apple Podcasts or Spotify, if you could help us out there as well. All right, Trash Man. So I have 7 things that I've written down over the course of these last 2 days, just things that I've thought were sort of interesting to bring up. I guess, we should probably talk about the Aaron Rodgers thing. It said at first, like, he was limping, all this stuff. They thought it was an ankle, but Josina Anderson, just earlier, I retweeted it from the Roster Watch account. Josina said that it's a calf, it's minor, and they're just going to be kind of taking it easy on it. It is just OTAs, but I think it goes to show, man, maybe that Aaron Rodgers should be he should be out there with these guys, sort of getting to know them and stuff like that, but maybe taking it a little bit easy moving forward here. Seems like that they've just had a little scare here, though, that they're going to be able to get through.
Well, him and Alan Lazard.
Oh, I didn't see Lazard.
Something, really?
He get banged up too?
Yeah.
Oh, well, so we'll keep an eye on that as well. Add that to my list of stuff here to monitor. A couple of these guys, man, aren't. Did you? I didn't even write that down about Kendre Miller, but you see he didn't take part in the rookie mini camps. It looks like he's not going to be doing anything during this portion of OTAs either. They're just holding him out.
Either is Alvin Kamara.
Yeah, that's true. And at least Kendre doesn't have a court case looming over him. I've noticed him, man. His ADP is really creeping up on Underdog lately. He's going now. He's just a consensus basically. Over at least this last round of testing that I've done for version 3.0 of the Underdog sheet. It feels like I've probably tested 11 of these things and 11 maybe anywhere from 11 to 13 live drafts. And Kendre Miller is going ahead of Roschon right now. Which
he should.
Well, yeah, I guess it feels like Roschon Johnson in Chicago has more of the clear pathway to at least start the season. They're talking about Roschon Johnson in Chicago is the guy that's going to start as the third down back. And I think if Roschon starts as the third down back and shows his wares there, it's going to be easy for a big, powerful runner like him to transition to a 3-down workload. Getting that third down work's the hard stuff.
I mean, so I just think with Khalil Herbert and Deontay Foreman there, those are both 2 pretty serviceable backs giving him competition. Whereas Miller, I mean, I guess Jamal Williams is in that mix, but if there's no Alvin Kamara to start the season, sky's the limit.
All right, so here's my neither of those things were things that I wrote down. Here's my first one. We'll kick it off with the biggest news about Trey Tucker. in Las Vegas. They're saying that if you reading The Athletic, they're talking about guys who on the roster who are safe, right? And at the wide receiver positions, at the wide receiver spot, they mentioned that, of course, Devontae Adams, Jacoby Myers, Hunter Renfrow, and Trey Tucker are the guys who are absolutely safe, guys that we're not going to have to worry about at all. My question is, when I started looking at that, I'm like, how does Trey Tucker fit in there? Because Jacoby Myers played 70% of his snaps out of the slot, right? Whenever he was in New England last year, right? We know that Hunter Renfrow can't play anything except for the slot. And you look back at Trey Tucker. I was looking at my write-up for him. Do you realize he was 96.5%?
Yeah, he was almost exclusively out of the slot.
Like, so what are they going to do there with these guys? I know that there have been rumors that that there could be interest in possibly trading away Hunter Renfrow, but that's another thing. I went and looked at Hunter Renfrow's contract details. It's like, you forget, man, they gave him a pretty good deal wherever he has who's going to take up his contract that has a $13 million cap number this year and next? I don't know. And if they cut him, they don't really save anything against the cap. So could you see Renfrow even going anywhere?
I mean, I doubt it. The thing is, with the Raiders, I feel like they're just probably going for a dink and dunk kind of passing offense, with Jimmy Garoppolo. And said maybe this is what Davante Adams is talking about. Just
whenever he was tilted, well, we know he's going to play outside and he's going to be the alpha, right? But you still can't have the lollipop gang. Like, you can't just play two slot wide receivers and then Davante, can you? These guys feel pretty redundant. I mean, if Jacoby Myers really did, he played 30% of his snaps outside last year. Do you think
I could see Myers being the other outside guy? I could see him. I think he's the best candidate to be that guy.
But for the matter of putting together, starting to put together early projections, and then also just, for whenever the season starts, and then for also just trying to figure out the matchup tool and the individual matchups projecting out over the course of the season. I feel like the Raiders is going to be one of the harder ones to project about who's going to be in the slot, who's outside. Like,
it doesn't matter.
Why?
It's Davante Adams, maybe whoever's the tight end, and then the running backs. Like, I'm not bothering any other Raiders in fantasy. I'm not.
No interest in Jacoby Myers?
No.
Not even?
No, so, on a regular basis, he'll be in some garbage grabs, I'm sure, but not on a regular basis.
So in drafts right now, at about the time that Jacoby Myers is going, you can also you can get like a Kendre Miller there, or a Roschon, maybe an Antonio Gibson.
Please. I'm not even. There's no discussion for me.
Jared Goff, or maybe tight ends like Chigo Okonkwo and stuff like that. So maybe that's just not an area where I have not found myself getting many guys like in this Juju Smith-Schuster, Jacoby Myers, Gabe Davis, Darnell Mooney kind of tier, like Sky Moore. That's just like, and at that point in the draft, they're running backs, they're tight ends that I feel like I can kind of stock up on then. That's why
the Raiders couldn't support a second receiver with Derek Carr under center consistently. What makes anyone think that suddenly that's going to be the case with Jimmy Garoppolo?
I view Jimmy Garoppolo and Derek Carr as relatively similar.
Even so, who are you playing other than Davante Adams last year on a consistent basis?
Josh Jacobs.
Exactly.
All right, next one. This is just something little. Like, why are we like? We're finally getting the D. Eskridge buzz. Finally, it's just the wrong time. He's looking good in OTAs.
He wasn't completely healthy.
Geno Smith is talking him up, but it doesn't matter, Trash Man. Your D. Eskridge dreams are dead and gone and done. They're over. It's not going to happen for him. But they're talking about how he looks great out there.
Maybe they'll trade him with somebody who will use him.
Of course, D. Eskridge of the Seattle Seahawks, formerly, where was he from? Western Michigan? Was that where he was from?
No.
Eastern Michigan? Eastern? Something
I think
Michigan.
Maybe Eastern.
Yeah. Good player, man. Good prospect that we really liked from the Senior Bowl. I thought it was funny. He was always one of your favorites. It feels like he's peaking at just the wrong time. He's peaking at just the wrong time for Trash Man in all your dynasty leagues. How about this one? And we've hit on this a little bit, but The Athletic is saying they were talking about position battles to monitor as the Detroit Lions begin this early portion of OTAs. heading into mandatory minicamps here at sort of mid-June. And they're saying that Sam Laporta right now, the rookie tight end out of Iowa, has the early advantage to be the starting tight end as a rookie. Are you buying
we
it?
saw last week they were saying that, Laporta looked like the best player on the field.
Well, right.
Minus, Gibbs.
Well, Jahmyr Gibbs wasn't on the field.
Well, that's what I'm saying. That's what I added that as an epilogue. But but so I'm not, it doesn't surprise me that Laporta is in the lead.
Are you interested in him? I mean, he's a great player. He's a yards after catch monster. He's really good.
I'm as interested in him as I'm interested in any tight end out, after maybe Dallas Goedert. I mean,
are you serious? Well, no. I mean, we can't. So tell me that. So how do you stack? No, because after Dallas Goedert goes, Darren Waller goes.
Okay,
so you don't mean that.
Okay,
Evan Ingram, David Njoku, Pat Freiermuth.
I mean, I don't care about David Njoku that much.
I think David Njoku is going to be good this year.
I think he'll be fine, but I think Laporta could be just as good.
Okay, so do you think Sam Laporta should be taken in redraft above Dalton Kincaid?
Yes,
for sure.
Yes.
What about above Cole Kmet?
Why not?
Well, because Cole Kmet, it feels like he scores the damn touchdown every week with Justin Fields there. After
I think that's a bit of a stretch.
Well, he didn't score every week, but it was certainly a lot better touchdown stuff for Cole Kmet in last season than it was in his first season.
A tight end, like a tight end. If I'm not getting a top tier tight end, I'm looking for upside. Because the thing is, the difference between those guys after the top tier isn't that great.
Yeah, man. But last year, like starting in week 9 or so, after week 9, it's like only 2 games with less than 5 targets and 7 touchdowns. It's like he
for Kmet, but also that Bears receiving core has arguably gotten better.
Yeah, no, I get it. So probably on the best ball cheat sheet right now for version 3.0, we're going to make a big move for that for Sam Laporta. What about, do you like him more than? I'm not sure we can make. You like him more than Dalton Schultz betting on himself in a 1-year deal down in Houston? Tight ends are a rookie quarterback's best friend.
They are. I'd probably have him behind Schultz right now,
and definitely behind Chigo Okonkwo, just because of the volume that we know Chig's going to get.
Yeah,
I can't in good conscience put him behind him. So I'm going to move Kmet down. I'm actually going to move Dalton Schultz down because I'm not comfortable with the level of exposure we're getting to him. And I'm moving that whole tier down just a little bit to where you'd be choosing between guys like Sam Laporta. I think having a choice of Sam Laporta, like right here in this Kendre Miller territory, right? Having a choice between him and, Kendre, the Sky Moore types, those kind of Zay Jones-ish players we were talking about earlier.
Yeah.
I think that makes sense. Okay. What about the Trey Lance stuff? I know we've talked about it before, but this is more because he's working with quarterback coach Jeff Christensen. He says that Trey Lance is just going to look completely. He just says, you're not going to believe it. He said,
of course he's saying that.
He said he finally got it one day a couple weeks ago whenever he was trying to explain this concept to him. And I don't pretend to know the ins and outs of, the quarterback movements and motions and stuff. But there was somebody who was working on it. He couldn't get right, apparently. Some little nuance to his throwing motion. And he had him come because Christensen works with Patrick Mahomes too, right? And so he said that he had him stand behind Mahomes and watch him do it. And like Mahomes did it expertly on this play. And he said it was like something clicked for Trey. And he just knew right then that something had clicked for the guy, because every day since
hopefully
then,
it wasn't his ACL.
Better. Yeah, well, hopefully not.
Yeah, until somebody who's not being paid to coach him up says that, says that
everybody who's coaching him is being paid to coach him up.
I mean, but that aren't being paid to coach other players up as well who are competing for the same position.
But But, I mean, at some point, with how far he's fallen, people saying he's not going to even play for the 49ers. He's probably going to get traded. Who knows? He's been shitty every time we've seen him. He always gets hurt. But, I mean, he was a super high. He was the number 3 pick in the draft. I mean, there's something about him.
Okay,
it
so
feels like that there's something
him?
that you could like. Well, just for dynasty, it feels like. I mean, would you ship away in a regular 1 quarterback league? Would you ship away a 2nd round pick for him?
Yeah.
In a super flex, would you ship away a first?
I'm
not sure. I would.
I don't think so.
But if it's a late first, I mean, at that point, you're just deciding, would I rather have this guy or Will Levis or something?
Yeah.
I don't think it's that weird a conversation to have, and I think that probably you might not even need to pay that much for him. So it's just, I mean, there's something to keep in mind there. Like I'm definitely holding on Trey Lance. I'm not getting on board with any kind of redraft stuff, but I think I'm going to hold on Trey Lance, man. It feels like there's some real confidence brewing there, and it could be all smoke. But if it's not, I mean, we've seen the potential, with these. I mean, we've seen the games where he can use his legs and absolutely, it's like,
yeah. I mean, the ship has not sailed on Trey Lance.
Yep. I got
on redrafts. I can't touch it.
Yeah. This is interesting about your Cowboys, and this is more philosophical because I've read the quotes from Brian Schottenheimer. I've read the quotes from Mike McCarthy. It sure seems to me like they keep saying that they want to run the ball more. They want to set the defense up to pin its ears back. So it's had me worried about Dak Prescott, right? It's had me worried. It's like, well, shit, is his pass volume going to be down? Like, well, do I need to worry about CeeDee Lamb? But it just feels like everything that they've done are just things to make it seem like they're going to, I mean, they bring in Brandon Cooks. You know what I mean? That like they don't do anything to complement Tony Pollard except for Ronald Jones and Deuce Vaughn,
who they love.
Well, but so how are they going to just going to be a ground and pound team with Tony Pollard? I disagree with these people who say that Tony Pollard can't hold up just because he looks like he's a smaller back. He plays like one. He's not. Tony Pollard's a big dude. I mean, I think he can hold up, but are they really just going to line him up and give him 300 carries or something like that?
I don't think so. I mean, when has Mike McCarthy ever done that as a football coach?
Well, who's the other? I mean, so that means that they have to bring somebody else in.
Not necessarily. Why does that mean that?
Well, just because they want to get back to the West Coast style of stuff. It's McCarthy, it's Schottenheimer, it's Boomer football. They're gonna want to run it,
and they're going to. I think Pollard and some combination of Jones and Vaughn. If they use Vaughn like they say they're going to use him, I think that shapes up for that.
Yeah, I just don't. It feels disconnected to me. It feels weird. It feels like that.
I don't think it's going to be that big of a transition.
I don't feel like the Cowboys are in alignment with what they're with how they're being built and what their coach's philosophy is, and it just worries me.
Well, that's it. The thing is, though, like I guess McCarthy's saying that, but I don't know. I mean, when he was with the Packers, I never saw an unbalanced rushing attack there for Green Bay.
Yeah. Well, if that's the case, then people are probably too low on Dak Prescott because his ADP has slipped so much due to fears that the offense is going to be a complete return to the fucking Stone Age. The Panthers. So a couple things. It looks like Bryce Young is finally working with the ones now, as if that was going to take long at all to overtake the Matt Corrals of the world and everything. But the other thing was that I saw a writer again in The Athletic, and I forgot who it was, saying that they're hoping that Terrace Marshall can emerge as their top threat.
I mean, I like Terrace Marshall.
After all this,
I liked him last year.
I mean, but people aren't even drafting him. They're drafting Adam Thielen and Jonathan Mingo and DJ Chark. Nobody's even thinking about Terrace Marshall anymore. It's like for a local beat writer to say something like that to me, and to single Terrace Marshall out as a player to keep an eye on during OTAs. I just thought, like, let's put a little pin in that Terrace Marshall thing, and let's remember that vis-a-vis the way that we view Thielen, the way that we view Jonathan Mingo, and the way that we view DJ Chark. If Terrace Marshall is going to be a part of that, it could, certainly it would displace some of those guys as far as their targets. And if it turns out that he becomes a reliable target, all the better for Bryce Young. He's going to have some, it's not an all-star cast, but those 4 wide receivers, they bring in Hayden Hurst as a tight end. And they have Miles Sanders, who, if Bryce Young really is like a Drew Brees type of quarterback, we know that Drew Brees was just the dump off king to these guys. So Bryce Young is a guy that could maybe benefit from that Terrace Marshall stuff, but just something to keep in mind. And then the final thing here was I saw a tweet from our friend Jared Smola, who's been here on the podcast, from Draft Sharks, retweeting a video of Breece Hall saying he's exactly 7 months today off of his ACL tear, and it showed him running on the field. He was out there in pads running, but on the side field away from the rest of the team, running a whole 100 yards and then like cutting off his left leg, going right, getting back up to speed. I mean, he looks good to me. He doesn't look like a guy that's 7 months off ACL. I do believe that, from what Joe Douglas told us at the combine, that like, look, man, like his recovery is going well. Like, and I said, well, have you seen him? He's like, yeah, like I've seen him. His recovery is going well. They're saying it's going good. Like, we're expecting him to be ready to go for week 1. A lot of times that could be a big time lie. I feel like Sean Payton could be lying about this week 1 stuff for Javonte Williams, just because I did see that Pro Football Doc, our good friend Dr. David Chow on Sports Injury Central, said he's not going to be to 100% capability until midway through next season. Whether he starts next season or not, that's to be determined. And like he said, no 2 players are the exact same. Every player is different, but it's a lot of hints of J.K. Dobbins last year with Javonte and his injury, the extent of the injury, the various ligaments, and his estimated timeline. And he was right on.
I'm definitely buying Samaje Perine where I can.
He's getting a little bit expensive. Like we talked about those guys. Are you taking him before that kind of area that we talked about with Roschon and Kendre Miller, Antonio Gibson, Rashad Penny sort of falls in there too. Charbonnet, Damian Harris, AJ Dillon. Do you like Samaje better than those guys?
Maybe not more than Dillon, but I mean, I think he's in that conversation for sure.
I'm not taking oatmeal pants Samaje over any of those guys, man. Give me the upside of these other dudes. What am I going to get? Samaje Perine for 4 games or something like that to start the season. I'm left with a bag of coal.
4 games, and then he becomes their 3rd down back.
What do you think? What are your storylines? I just went through 7 of them that have kind of stuck out to me.
Okay, so one of mine was this John Mechie. Well, they're saying that D'Amico Ryan saying he's expected to be ready for training camp, but I didn't know that he'd suffered a hamstring early in the offseason.
Yeah, well, they're saying that he's going to be involved in OTAs now. Is he not? I haven't seen the reporting. Is he not taking part? Did he not take part yesterday?
I didn't see whether he took part yesterday. It just said he was expected to be ready for training camp.
Okay. Well, that's definitely something to keep in mind, and it cracks the door open a little bit for
my boy Dell. Tank.
Yeah, for Tank Dell for sure.
So that was one. Also, Lucky Jackson being signed by the Vikings. So at least they're adding a little bit more wide receiver firepower there. And one of the XFL stars.
Are you kidding me? Are you calling that firepower?
I mean, it's not nothing considering how shallow the Vikings receiving core is right now.
Lucky Jackson? Can I just turn off the damn podcast right now? Lucky Jackson from the XFL? I mean, what the hell are we even talking? So what did he even do? So he caught 36 passes for 572 and 5 touchdowns in 10 games with the DC Defenders. That's not adding firepower, trash man. That's adding a camp body. Oh my God.
Well, what about Rashad Bateman being on field for the first day of OTAs?
Oh, I saw that. That's good, right? That's
allegedly.
Good. Yeah, it's good. Well, no, I mean, dude, here's the thing with this whole thing with the Vikings, the way I've decided it. These Vikings wide receivers are going too early in these drafts for me to take them. Rashad Bateman was a good value for a while there. He started to creep up a little bit. To me, it's just like, to me, this all means Lamar Jackson, just move up Lamar Jackson, see about getting exposure to him and getting exposure to all these players through him.
Yeah, I think, just too much competition for wide receiver there in Ravens. And we don't know what that offense is going to look like. There's so much speculation that they're going to throw the ball more, but then you have two good tight ends already there too. It's just a muddled situation. But it is good that Bateman's getting out there. I mean, I think he should project to be the team's lead receiver entering the season.
Well, here's the thing, Trash Man. At least they didn't go out and sign Lucky Jackson, because then it would just be way too muddled.
Also, there's Ty Montgomery.
Jesus Christ. What's the Ty Montgomery thing?
Well, the former Patriots running back coach said he thinks Montgomery has a good chance to be the third down back for the Patriots this year.
So does that worry you about Ramondre Stevenson? I saw our friend Derek Brown just had a take on Twitter. I thought it was just a fire breathing take. He says he's taking Ramondre over Christian McCaffrey this year. Love you though, Derek, man. I'm not talking shit. It was like, wow, it's an interesting.
I mean, I think we have what is the opposite of rose-colored glasses? Is there something?
No, I don't know.
Well, whatever it is, we have it. We have those glasses on for Ramondre Stevenson.
I think you got to be wearing beer goggles to see him be anything better than Christian McCaffrey, man. Come on.
We've Ramondre Stevenson has been infamously pilloried on this podcast.
Look, he turned out better than I ever thought. I wasn't even sure he was going to get drafted. So it's like, that's probably.
Yeah, but I don't know. Maybe if we're talking about touches, maybe he'll get 300 touches this season.
Yeah, I mean, not if they're talking about touches. Not if there's all this interest in Ty Montgomery as a third down back. It's like, I don't know. I don't care about Montgomery. I think for the Ramondre stuff, it makes sense to sort of bring it up. Do you got any other storylines that you just have to get out there and talk about?
Tank Bigsby has the inside track to be the number 2 back there.
I saw that who was that that tweeted that? Was that John Shipley?
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw. I mean, isn't that didn't you always figure that was going to happen over like the Dearness Johnsons of the world and stuff?
But I didn't think it would be so quick.
Yeah, well, I mean, they didn't draft him where they did to not use him. And the thing about Tank Bigsby is he's a good pass catcher.
I thought maybe Hasty would have the leg up on him. I mean, Hasty wasn't bad.
Jermichael Hasty stinks. I mean, we like him. He's from just up the road, but he stinks. He stinks. Dearness Johnson's better than Jermichael Hasty. I think Tank Bigsby comes. Yeah, yes. Jermichael Hasty kind of runs a little bit like a duck. He does. Look at the way he runs with his feet pointed out like this.
Little, what do you call that? It's not bow-legged.
It's the opposite of it. It's a duck walker.
Knock-knee?
I think that might be some kind of slur.
Do you
have any other storylines before you get us canceled?
I mean, there's Josh Downs in Indianapolis looking like the potential slot receiver and maybe second receiver after Michael Pittman for targets there in Indianapolis.
Reggie Wayne loves him. He said he was that was the reporting that came out from there. They interviewed Reggie Wayne, the wide receivers coach there. I mean, of course, everybody knows Reggie Wayne, a guy who they kept on staff, right? So,
yeah.
And who they listened to in the third round, saying this is my favorite receiver in this draft. So I mean, he got his guy. It's just a rookie running quarterback who's going to be just getting his feet wet, having a good wide receiver in Michael Pittman to deal with, a receiver who's not good, but the Colts might think is kind of good and still want to see what they have in Alec Pierce. But he certainly squeezes in right between those guys, especially now with Paris Campbell gone.
Yeah, I mean, I like Downs where he is. I mean, I like him
It
as
spells
a
the end
potential
for Ashton
safety
Doolin.
valve for Richardson, but also he's a guy who can open up the field, who can stretch the field out of the slot.
It spells the end for Ashton Doolin. R.I.P. to our good friend, the Podfather, who's an Ashton Doolin fan.
There was one more, and that was that Jerome Ford looks like the number 2 behind Nick Chubb in Cleveland.
And I don't think it matters, man. The more I look at, the more, and I think that people are starting to realize it. You know, he's moving up in these underdog drafts, and the more I realize it, it's just like, if he doesn't have anybody there to split this with, and Jerome Ford is clearly just going to be a backup to him, right? Nick Chubb, now he's much better in half PPR and in standard leagues, right? But you're talking about a guy who in standard setups, and Nick Chubb, even with other running backs to contend with, he's gotten you over 20 points in standard leagues 25.81% of the time. The only players better than that are Derrick Henry, Christian McCaffrey, Jonathan Taylor, and guess who else when healthy? Rashad Penny.
I told you, Rashad Penny's a G,
which is odd to look, but Rashad Penny busts, so he gets you less than 7 fantasy points in standard 60% of the time. He gets you less than 10 fantasy points in PPR 67% of the time. So he's an up and down boom bust player. Whereas Nick Chubb,
I think a lot of those are games where he wasn't healthy or just wasn't the feature back at that point.
Nick Chubb is just going to bust for you once out of every 5 games. That was with guys like Kareem Hunt coming in there and taking snaps away from him. He's going to have the featured workload this year. Jerome Ford, as far as I'm concerned, he's a handcuff.
He's a handcuff, but I think he's maybe a little bit of a higher priority handcuff.
No, he's a higher priority handcuff because he's going to be one of the only players there. Like who else? They're not going to put in Demetric Felton.
Yeah,
it's just like that isn't going to happen. I think they brought in one UDFA. Let me just pull that up real quick. So the Browns, they brought in Cleveland, Nick Chubb, Jerome Ford, Demetric Felton. Oh yeah, I forgot. So then they also have John Kelly, who hasn't done a damn thing in his NFL career. And then the UDFA they brought in was looks like Hassan Hall, 5'10", 196 pounds. Very, very, very puny. Who's gonna have a bigger impact this year, Trash Man? This is the big question. Hassan Hall or Lucky Jackson?
Give me Lucky.